Hello friends, welcome to my channel Tech Getter Official. Have you ever felt like your mouse movement is just a fraction of a second behind your actions? Your FPS looks great. GPU usage is low. Frame times look smooth. Yet, the game still feels a bit laggy. That disconnect, that subtle delay between your input and what you see on screen, is one of the most frustrating problems in PC gaming. And here's the key thing most people miss. It's not your refresh rate. It's not your monitor. And it's not just how the game feels. What you're experiencing is GPU queue latency. By default, Windows and GPU drivers allow multiple frames to stack up in a render queue before they're displayed. This improves average FPS and keeps things looking smooth, but it comes at a cost. Every extra frame sitting in that queue is time your mouse or keyboard input has to wait before it appears on screen. In fast-paced or competitive games, that delay is the difference between hitting a shot and missing it, even when your FPS counter says everything is perfect. Today, we're fixing that. In this guide, I'll show you how to properly reduce GPU queue depth using safe Windows registry tweaks, driver-level latency controls, and Windows optimizations that actually work. No unstable hacks. No placebo tweaks. No FPS killing settings. Just faster input response, tighter frame delivery, and a game that finally feels connected to your hands. Before touching any settings, step 1 is critical. Confirm that GPU queue latency is actually your problem. High GPU queue depth has very specific symptoms. Your mouse feels delayed even at high FPS. Fast flicks feel inconsistent or slightly mushy. Frame times look smooth but the game reacts slowly. And input lag gets worse when GPU usage climbs toward 90 or 100%. This is important because GPU queue latency doesn't show up as stutter or frame drops. It shows up as buffering. Everything looks stable, but it feels slow. You can verify this using tools like the AMD Radeon Performance Overlay with frame time graphs, LatencyMon to check driver-induced scheduling delays, or in-game latency tools such as reflex analyzers if the game supports them. When GPU queue depth is the issue, you'll see stable FPS, consistent frame times, and a constant but noticeable input delay, especially under load. Once you recognize that behavior, you're ready to fix it. Step 2 is where most people never go. Windows registry scheduling tweaks. By default, Windows prioritizes throughput over latency. That's great for benchmarks, but terrible for competitive gaming. These tweaks shift the system toward low latency behavior instead. Before starting, close all games and background applications. Press Windows plus R, type regedit, and press Enter. Navigate carefully to each path. Always double-check before editing. First, we reduce hardware frame buffering. In the appropriate graphic scheduling path, create a new DWORD 32-bit value if it doesn't already exist. Name it HWD mode and set the value to 2. What this does is force hardware-accelerated GPU scheduling into a low-latency behavior. It prevents Windows from building deep frame queues and reduces buffering during fast camera movement. Next, we adjust GPU priority and scheduling behavior. Navigate to the Multimedia System Profile Task Settings path. Create or modify these values. GPU priority set to 8. Priority set to 6. Scheduling category set to high. These settings enforce GPU frame delivery priority over background services. Multimedia and gaming workloads are favored, reducing frame pacing inconsistencies caused by Windows scheduling. This step is especially effective in competitive shooters, racing games, and any title sensitive to input delay. Once finished, close the registry editor and restart your PC. After reboot, Windows will handle GPU work with tighter scheduling, less buffering, and more consistent frame delivery. Step 3 is where latency drops the most, AMD Adrenalin settings. Driver-level controls directly affect how frames are queued, rendered, and delivered. Getting this wrong cancels everything you just fixed. Open AMD Adrenalin. First, enable Radeon Anti-Lag. Go to Graphics Settings and turn Radeon Anti-Lag on. This limits how many frames the CPU is allowed to queue ahead of the GPU. It forces tighter synchronization between input, CPU, and GPU, reducing the delay between mouse movement and on-screen response. Think of it as AMD's version of NVIDIA Reflex. It's especially effective in CPU-limited and competitive games, and it usually comes with little to no FPS loss. Next, disable Enhanced Sync. Enhanced Sync can add extra buffering in fast-paced games. Even when FPS looks high, it can introduce inconsistent frame delivery and increased input latency. Keep VSync off inside games. If you need frame control, use frame limiting or Radeon Chill instead. Speaking of chill, only enable it if your GPU is consistently maxed out and you're seeing fluctuating frame times or microstutter. If you use it, set minimum FPS equal to maximum FPS, targeting just below your refresh rate. For example, on a 144 Hz display, set both values to 142. Next, adjust texture filtering quality. Set texture filtering quality to performance. This slightly reduces GPU processing overhead and texture sampling latency. The visual difference is minimal, but the latency improvement adds up in competitive play. Combined with the Windows tweaks earlier, this creates a clean low-latency pipeline from input to display. Step 4 removes hidden Windows behaviors that quietly add input lag. These settings don't boost FPS, but they reduce delay and inconsistency, which matters far more. First, disable full-screen optimizations. Windows often injects a compositor layer even when a game looks like it's running in exclusive full-screen. For each competitive game, right-click the game's executable, open Properties, go to Compatibility, and check Disable Full-Screen Optimizations. This prevents extra buffering and restores true exclusive full-screen behavior. Next, configure per-app graphics settings. Go to Settings, System, Display, Graphics. Add your game manually if needed. Set GPU preference to high performance. Enable hardware-accelerated GPU scheduling only if it's stable on your system. If you notice stutter or instability, disable it and keep the rest. Finally, enable Game Mode. Game Mode reduces background CPU scheduling, limits interruptions, and prioritizes game threads under load. GPU queue depth is one of the most overlooked causes of input lag. Windows wants stability. Drivers want higher FPS. Neither prioritizes instant response by default. You just flip that priority. If this video helped you even a little, make sure to drop a like. It really helps the channel reach more gamers who need these fixes. Comment your GPU and tell me how your game felt before and after the changes. I read every comment, and your feedback helps future videos. And if you're serious about low latency, smooth frame delivery, and real performance fixes, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next guide. Lower latency, faster response, better control. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.